All right, so this is the weekly market recap for the trading week ending August 14th, 2026. We are going to cover multiple funds and securities and prices today. All of this information is from Yahoo Finance. And the first four funds are going to be Vanguard funds. I'm not telling anybody to buy these. I just know what's inside of them because I worked for Vanguard for 13 years. And they cover the entire world's publicly traded stock and bond market. So the first fund we're going to cover here is the total U.S. stock market, which is VTI, was up 0.54%. And the total international stock index fund, VXUS, was up 0.56%. So we were up across the world's equity markets or stock markets. Not by a crazy amount, but, over time, stocks tend to be up. So when there's no news, you might see a slight float up. When there's news in one way or another, you might see it go up or go down. But overall, the stock market was relatively flat over the last trading week. Let's take a look at the total U.S. bond market, or BND, was down 0.12%. And the total international bond fund, BNDX, was down 0.15%. These are not big movements in any direction for stocks or bonds, but if you had a broadly diversified portfolio across the entire world, you were probably up this week. The most important thing is that you understand why you're invested in what you're invested in so that you can sleep at night. There's always going to be news and things that are going to push your emotions one way or another. The best thing to do is ignore those emotions and stick with the plan. But if you can't sleep at night, that is an indicator that you should probably look at how you are invested so that you can decide if what you're invested in is proper for you. So let's go ahead and take a look here at gold. Gold was up 2.1%. Silver was up 2.38%. And copper was up 0.58%. So these are precious metals. Precious metals historically have been for value retention. They're not generally things that are going to make you a lot of money unless they'll preserve your money, but they're generally not going to skyrocket in value unless inflation goes up and or a new use case for them comes up. So copper, one of the reasons I'm paying attention to copper is because I've read that we're supposed to have a need for copper over the next 20 years that surpasses the use for copper over the last 100 years. So that's why I'm paying attention to it. I don't know if that'll come to fruition, but there's supposedly use case for it, and some people think it's going to drive the price up. And if you look at it over 6 months, we're at over 14%, 1 year, 48%, and 5 years, 50%. So it's nothing crazy, especially when you compare it to silver and gold, right? They have done significantly more over that same 5-year window. Now let's get into some fun. Let's get into some Bitcoin. So when the Bitcoin bros find me, they always want to fight me. But Bitcoin was down 2% over the last 5 days. Bitcoin is a little bit different than these other securities that we're covering because it is a 24/7 market. So it's currently moving right now. So it's down 2% from 5 days ago, like to this moment. So again, this is according to Yahoo Finance, but it's down 2%. It's hard to know what is pushing Bitcoin up or down. They did not pass the act in Congress here in America, which some people were betting would make cryptocurrencies go on a run. So it is sitting pretty stable right now. It's pretty much floated around this area for a little bit. It's up almost 5% over the month, but still down over 28% for the last 6 months. Pretty similar year to date, but it's lost almost 50% of its value over the last year. So I'm neither pro nor against Bitcoin. I just want people to understand there is no intrinsic value. Its value is strictly based on the fact that someone else is willing to pay for it. It has no fundamentals. It doesn't produce products. So just things you need to be aware of when it comes to Bitcoin. I know there are a lot of believers out there in it. Let's take a look at oil. Crude oil was up 5.41%, which means we're probably going to see our gas prices increase, even though, it was down and up and all that sort of stuff. It moves around. Gas prices generally immediately adjust up and they lag when oil comes down. But oil was up over 5% this week. So those are the main securities that I like to cover because these are the popular ones. If you have any other securities you would like me to cover and talk about, we can. But the main thing you need to understand when it comes to these markets is it's a lot of the time very difficult to understand why something is moving the way it's moving. Like gold and silver went on a crazy run and nobody can really tell you why. Right? We had inflation, so it might have been a delayed rise in the market, but we had inflation and we didn't see a run like that in a long time. I can't even remember it happening before. So you want to understand why you own something. Oil is a little bit easier to see because generally anytime something happens with the oil pipelines, oil reserves, or oil being able to get out, like with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, you're going to see those prices change. So, and again, when the price of oil goes up, we almost instantly see gas prices go up. And when oil comes down, we generally do not see an immediate downward push on prices. That feels not cool to me, maybe even illegal, but I'm just a guy sitting here talking. So who knows? But that is the weekly market recap for the trading week ending August 14th, 2026. If you have any other securities you'd like me to cover and talk about, I'd be happy to. Just put a comment down below and we can get to it. Thanks.